So I know that there are a good few K-pop stans that when they're listening to an album and they're on the last couple tracks and then they hear the piano of a ballad start, they just think, not a ballad, and skip it. But I don't think that's fair. I like ballads and they can be really good. I mean, they're the most popular genre in Korea for a reason. And to be honest, a big part of why ballads are so popular is that they tend to be quite lyrical and have a message that a lot of people can relate to. I mean, look at Adele's career. She's one of the biggest pop stars and she's a balladeer. Ballads sell. But in terms of K-pop, only Korean fans are going to get the good lyrics of a song on the first listen, which means that international fans just won't be able to enjoy a ballad as much because they don't speak Korean. And to that I say, incorrect. There are so many aspects to a good ballad that make them a popular genre for a reason, and that's what I'm going to be discussing in this video. I'm going to be coming to the defense of ballads because I don't like how mean K-pop stans are to them. So to start this video, I think I'll talk about maybe the most popular Korean ballad of all time, Spring Day by BTS. Spring Day 100% falls into the category of very lyrically strong ballads, but it also has a lot of other things going for it. It manages to avoid many of the common pitfalls of the typical K-pop ballad. In fact, Spring Day actually has most of the things that I would say make a good ballad. So I will list them off here and we can use that as a list to defend some more ballads later on in the video. Firstly, Spring Day isn't your stereotypical ballad. It's not just someone with an impressive voice singing over a piano track. Even though I say that, I do think songs like that can still make great ballads, so note that down as a positive. But yeah, Spring Day isn't a generic ballad. It has a more interesting production about it, which is another thing that I think makes a good ballad. Another thing is if the song is genuinely emotional. A lot of ballads try to be emotional, but only the good ones actually are. Spring Day achieves this through its lyrics, but many others do this through the vocals. Another common pitfall of especially K-pop ballads is trying to shoehorn a rap into every song because the rappers need something to do. However, Spring Day and many other songs later in the video manage to make the rap parts feel organic and make them fit in with the rest of the song. Or they just don't have any. Spring Day does the former. Another thing a lot of groups are guilty of is the obligatory ballad. A lot of groups use ballads as runtime patter on their albums, which can get very annoying for fans. I mean, I'm a ballad lover, but Astro almost made me hate them with the amount of obligatory ballads in their discography. And one final thing I want to add that doesn't really apply to Spring Day is just when the song is so unbelievably pretty. I've got some examples of that later on. But with that, I think that's the list. So let's start defending some ballads. The first song I want to mention for good vocals is In My Space by Kim Woojin. This is the most basic a ballad can get. The song is simply Woojin singing over a piano and nothing else. But in my opinion, it works, simply because Woojin is such a good vocalist, and because he keeps it so simple. I said the song is as basic as it gets, but it's not generic, because of its simplicity. The song is almost daring in how simple it is. Woojin's vocals are so exposed that you can easily hear any imperfections, which makes it so unique to him. It was also brave of him to release a song that is so unforgiving in the instrumental, and for him to sing it live, since that could just go so wrong so easily. But in short, this song only works because it's Woojin singing it, and because it's so basic that it's not generic. I also want to mention Mamamoo's ballads in this category as well. Mamamoo are widely considered to be one of the strongest girl groups vocally, and therefore their ballads fall into the category of ballads that are simply impressive. My favourite ballads from Mamamoo are Where Are We Now? This is just an absolutely gorgeous track from a ballad album, of which every song is a good ballad. I'm just saying Where Are We Now was chosen to be the title track for a reason. Also, my favourite ballad from Mamamoo is I Miss You. This is another great song, and it's their most vocally impressive song. So much so that even though the song does kind of fall victim to the shoehorning a rap in when it probably should have just been left out, I Miss You still manages to be one of my favourite ballads of all time. Each of the girls just gave such a strong vocal performance that I couldn't not love this song. I also want to give a special mention to LMM by Hwasa. This is always the song I want to use when I want to show off Hwasa's vocals. She's my favourite female vocalist, but she gave an amazing performance on this song, making an amazing ballad that is totally worth defending. Interesting production is the main thing that can save a ballad from feeling boring and generic, and my favourite example of interesting production in a ballad is You're My World by Astro. This song starts out like every other ballad, and when I was listening to Astro's discography for the first time and this came on, I was like, here's the obligatory ballad. But it's saved from being that by its interesting production and structure. You're My World is actually an anti-drop song, which is really unique for ballads, considering they're normally written to show off impressive belty vocals. But with You're My World being an anti-drop, we don't get that. Instead, the vocals are very soft, and then they're followed by a rap part, and then the impressive vocals kick in for the second half of the chorus. But that unexpected anti-drop really does help to make this song stand out. And when a ballad has something like this, something that's just a little bit different, I don't see why people would want to skip it, because you can get these really cool songs out of it. Another example of a ballad that's a little bit different is You Were Beautiful by Day 6. Day 6's music is very rock-based, which leads to this ballad feeling very different to your stereotypical one, since the instrumental is a lot more rock-based than your stereotypical piano or soft acoustic guitar. Day 6 also have quite rough vocals, very good vocals, but rough, which adds to the rock vibe of this song and the overall different feeling of the ballad. If a song manages to evoke real emotion from me, I do tend to like it more, and it stays with me. And ballads can do that very well. For me, the most emotional ballads are those that are released for enlistment or disbandment. And by far, the ballad that has evoked the strongest emotion for me is Boy in Time by wayyy. wayyy released this song before he enlisted, and it actually brought me to tears. Obviously the lyrics are emotional, as this was his way of saying goodbye to Universe. However, what brought me to tears was wayy's vocals. wayyy is by far my favourite vocalist of all time, and that is in large part due to how much emotion he is able to convey through his singing. I could rave about wayy's voice all day, but I think the best way to understand is simply to listen to Boy in Time, and you'll see what I mean, especially when he says Annyeong at the end. The weight behind that word is what makes me tear up every single time. Another ballad that makes me feel emotional is Again by NU'EST. This was their disbandment song, and it made me emotional when I first heard it, and I know literally nothing about NU'EST. So that must mean it's good, right? This one is also quite a bit more upbeat than Boy in Time, which means you can enjoy it without having to shed a tear every time, but it can still make you emotional. All K-pop songs are at risk of having a random rap section shoved in, because for some reason it's like some sort of law that all K-pop songs need to have a rap section, but ballads tend to be hit the hardest by this, since ballads just aren't written with rappers in mind. However, it isn't impossible to make it work. Pentagon are actually very good at fitting rap sections into their ballads. The best examples of this are in I'm Fine. I will be fine. The rap sections work so well in this song, and that's because I think the song was written around the rap. I mean, obviously I wasn't there when the song was written, but it really feels that way. I mean, the chorus is literally a rap chorus with the vocalist singing over top of it, which, side note, is one of my favourite things in music. So obviously the rap in the chorus is good, and it works because this is the main focus of the chorus, but the raps in the verses also feel super cohesive. So yeah, I'm Fine is just a really good ballad that really works with its rap sections, since they weren't just shoved in there so the rappers had something to do. They're instead a main feature of the song. Another great Pentagon ballad, and my favourite ballad of all time actually, with rap sections that work, is Beautiful. To be honest, I could have put Beautiful in any category because it really is the standard for ballads in my opinion. I'm a firm believer that this is one of Pentagon's best songs and the best ballad in K-pop. I know that's high praise, but this song is truly just so good. From the absolutely outstanding vocals to the rap parts that fit. I thought I'd put this here since it doesn't really do anything special to make the rap parts stand out like I'm Fine does, but they still work, and that's simply because you can tell that the song was always meant to have these rap parts in it. And the way that Yuto, Woosok and Dawn deliver their parts fit with the rest of the song, and their parts blend really well with the vocals, since there are vocalist members just vocalising throughout their parts, which keeps up the cohesion. But yeah, I really can't stress this enough. Beautiful by Pentagon is a masterpiece, and I really hope you can give it a listen if you haven't already. I do think that the quote-unquote obligatory ballad is what makes a lot of K-pop stans just skip them in albums, even though the ballad that they've just skipped might be an amazing song that may or may not contain some of the things mentioned previously. And to be honest, I do kind of understand that. A lot of groups will just chuck a ballad or two onto an album since they're fairly easy to make, especially if you have good vocalists in your group. However, since they're only there as space fillers, there isn't really much thought put into them, and so they end up being quite boring. And if you stan groups that are repeat offenders of this, I don't blame you for not liking ballads. But not all groups do that, and can instead use ballads to enhance an album instead of just filling out the runtime. A group that does this is BTS. Pretty much every BTS release has a ballad on it, however none of them seem like obligatory ballads, since they always serve a purpose on whatever album they're on. Jin very commonly gets ballads on their albums, and that's because he has a voice that is very well suited to ballads, which is why when the members are getting a moment to show off individual talents, it makes sense why Jin would be singing a ballad. BTS also use ballads to regulate the energy of an album. For example, in B, Blue and Grey is used to break up the album so that you get a bit of a breather from all the other energetic songs on that album. BTS are also never caught slacking on their ballads. Each one has an interesting production which fits with the BTS sound, which makes it feel like every ballad that they've released was meant to be released and not just thrown in at the last minute to pad out the runtime. Most of the songs I've mentioned in this video can fit into this category. I'm just including it because I've got two more ballads that I want to include and I'm not exactly sure where to put them. The first is Bloom by Astro. I don't have anything in particular to say about this song, but it's my favourite Astro ballad and I wanted to mention it because it is unbelievably gorgeous. I am a true sucker for strings and this song utilises them so well to become one of the prettiest songs Astro has ever released. The second song I wanted to mention is Story by MJ. This was MJ's enlistment song and it sort of covers all of the things I'd want from a good ballad. It's emotional, MJ's vocals are outstanding, and the song builds so well that it also gets me quite excited whenever I listen to it. And obviously there is no shoehorned rap because it's just MJ. This is another good way to get around bad raps and ballads. Just don't put them in. So to conclude, I love ballads, and there are so many different ways to make them good, so it's not fair to say that you hate all ballads because a certain group that you like doesn't really put that much effort into them, since there are so many artists that will. There are two things that I want any ballad haters watching this video to take away, and that's, don't just skip every ballad you come across, because if you give them a chance, I can guarantee you'll find at least one, probably a lot more, that you genuinely enjoy. And second is that you need to listen to Beautiful by Pentagon. But anyway, that's all I have to say about ballads today. This video ended up being way longer than I was expecting, so if you've made it this far, thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you again next time. Bye!